Hello, everyone. Welcome to the PokerDeals Podcast. We have a very special guest today. We welcome Mark Herm. Mark is a longtime poker pro, 16 years in the bank of playing, main grind, MTTs, and amassed over $7 million online. So this guy obviously knows something about playing poker, and it's going to be very interesting to speak with him today to see what we can get. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm good.
Awesome. So tell our audience, how did you even get into poker? I mean, 16 years is such a long time. How did it all begin?
I have a pretty boring getting into the game story, but I have a really good epic I guess bankroll story.
Okay.
I got it. I got in. I got in. Basically, I think the way a lot of guys my era did is watching Moneymaker on TV.
The classic.
Deposit a little bit of money online. Started off playing Limit Hold'em. My first book I read ever was Sklansky for advanced for advanced players, which was just some nitty Limit Hold'em book.
Yeah.
Which honestly helped me. It helped. Just anything helped me, and I was so fucking passionate about it that I was passionate about nothing else other than I played football at the time. I couldn't get into school or anything like that. It was anything I could get my fucking hands on. I was reading Mason Malmuth theoretical posts on fucking on poker and could not get enough. Right.
Uh-huh.
But the part of my story that is cool and it's kind of a brag is I deposited $10 on Ultimate Bet. I didn't realize this till recently. I deposited $10 on Ultimate Bet, and I never had to deposit again since that. This is in college when I was I wasn't really a pro then, but I deposited $10, spun that to a G or something. But I never had to deposit my own money ever again.
It's a rare story. It's a rare story for sure. And when I was listening to other podcasts, it was almost like kindred spirits. I mean, it was the same. Deposited $20. I was close to going bust, though. I have to say, I was not so aware of the variance as most are not. But yeah, $10 and never having to deposit. I mean, that's the dream scenario, right?
Yeah, I think I was kind of close to being cash broke at one point because I had a shoot. This is the PCA, probably 2007. I remember I had a big stable with probably a big makeup number of I don't know, maybe $1 million, or I don't even know what money was going on then, to be honest. I don't know what a number was back then, but I was probably pretty close to cash poor at one point. But other than that, no, I was cash poor minus assets. But yeah.
But why poker? You said it was the only thing that grabbed you. What was it about poker that just, sucked you in?
I think something turned me on about the fact that you could just be more patient than people and do well, which is so looking at it now, is so fucking weird that I would think that then, because now I'm the biggest maniac. I would say if you had to take a vote of the regs that play high stakes MTTs, that I would have to be in the top 3 of just the craziest players ever, if not the top 1. I'm just a complete psycho. I'm the furthest thing from tight at all. So, but yes, something about that interested me. I just think the whole thing just really, I don't know, the whole fucking thing just it's massively. The first time I remember I ever went to the casino, I played 2-4 limit, and it just, something about it was just so magical. I can't even describe the chips. I saw one guy win 2 pots or 3 pots. I'm like, oh my god, this guy is a fucking pro. In reality, this guy is some fucking bum. But it was just so it was out of a movie. To me, I was that into it.
When did you realize that you could do this as a job? In the beginning, was it just a hobby, or was it right away, okay, I can make this my job?
Okay, so I have a pretty interesting story. I was the smart kid, played football, social mutant, big time. Not in the sense that I didn't have friends. I did have friends, but in certain ways, it was very hard for me to relate to other kids. Yeah, I don't know really much more to say than that. I was very like not confident teen. I was very low self-esteem teen. I struggled in that way a lot. I did find a passion in football, and I was not necessarily good at football, but I was tough, and I succeeded at football, and I ended up playing Division III college football, where I met a lot of friends and stuff, and then I started drinking a lot in college.
As everyone does, I guess.
As everyone does, and I was like, I think kind of like a worse off than most. And I got into a drunken fight, and I got kicked out of school instantly.
Okay.
Which was like, at the time, was kind of devastating to me, because like that was my life. Like, I was passionate about football, and I did plan on, continuing with it, and that's where my friends were and stuff. And at the same time, I was, working on my poker game, whatever. So once I got kicked out of school, I was just like, all right, well, let's see what I can do with this.
Yeah, and options limited, right? They decided for you.
Right. And I remember there was a moment where, I didn't have a job. I was living at my parents' house. This is probably a week after I got kicked out of school, because I was always like a hardworking kid. Not in school, but and my mom said to me, "Mark, you need to get a job." And I said, "Yeah, like I'm gonna try to do this poker thing as a job." I'd made like a couple $1,000s until that point.
Yep.
I'm gonna try to do this poker thing as a job. And she like, my parents, the nuts, like very supportive, like very like they put like very little pressure on me with anything with school, which I think aided me in my life success. And I just said, I'm going to try this. And, she was probably very like scared at the time, because I got kicked out of school, blah, blah. And she's like, you can't do that as a job. Like, that's not a thing. And I just said, not cockily or not arrogant or not mean or anything. I just said, watch me. Like, for whatever reason, I just knew, I don't know why, I just knew that I could. And
was it part of being like rebellious as a teenager, or is it just like you had such self-belief, like, no, I've seen this, I know this is possible?
No, I just something within myself knew it, and I don't know why. Like there's no like data that should have told me that I could have. I don't know. It just was in me that it was like a sure thing. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I actually ended up like hitting a wall. I played limit hold'em, and it came to a point where I could not beat 5-10 party poker limit hold'em. I couldn't beat the game. I don't know why. I just couldn't beat it. Like, it was not sure. Then I shifted towards sit and goes, and I started playing on a site called Absolute Poker, which had like sit and goes and like very small MTTs, and they ran this like leaderboard thing, which really like fit well with my like obsessive like goal oriented like mind. Like I do very well when I have like a goal. Okay, I need to win the PLB for the week, and sometimes I would play like 20-hour sessions, just to grind sit and goes and whatever, and you would get like free money essentially. You would essentially get like $1,000 a month free, plus whatever rake back you were making. We're probably making like $7,000 free a month just from doing that, minus we're crushing the games as well. I met up with one kid early on that like kind of taught me like aggression and how it played in sit and goes, which I like didn't like understand before. He was a roommate of mine for a while. He ended up like kind of going nuts and not doing so well. And then eventually I met DJ K123.
Oh, nice.
Who was probably fucking 12 years old at the time. Literally. I'm trying to think of how old Dan was at the time. Dan, okay, so I was like 18 maybe. Dan was like 15 years old. And he had just solved like these spots that weren't solved before, like how many blinds you could shove in certain spots and stuff like that. A complete genius. There's all different types of intelligence, right?
Yeah.
And he just had this stuff down, like the mathematical, like, okay, you can do this and this and this. he had it down, and he kind of just took me under his wing. And up until that point, I'd played a lot of like tournaments, and I just was clueless. I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan kind of just showed me the way. And I believe that, and you know, I'm sure other people will say this, but I do believe that Dan and I were among the first to start 3-betting light. Like I'm sure you could go back to like Stu Unger, and like Stu Unger was doing shit like that, like in fucking whenever the fuck his day was. But like online, like it really was not a thing to just have a bad hand and 3-bet it. Like it just wasn't.
Yeah, exactly right.
This is 2000. This is 2005, 2006. Like it just wasn't a thing. So he like kind of introduced me to it, and then once he introduced me to it, I kind of like took off. Like I kind of like went with it. I'm like, all right, well, fucking let's
go.
Every hand, whatever. And so there was a period of time. I would say like I'm not sure the years, like 2006 to like 2009 maybe, where I do believe that I was probably the best. Maybe it was like me and I think like Sorrell was quite good at the time too, but probably the best at tournaments then. But the way you beat tournaments then compared to the way that you beat tournaments now, it's like way different. Like in 2006, if you were, let's say you were, you know, 20 of 100 in the Sunday Mulligan, first is 48K. You're gonna like, I'm gonna win that tournament fucking like 1 out of 3 times, like at least, like you're fucking winning that tournament. Nowadays, just by the sheer like, you know, basic, like people like understanding basic
exactly
things,
right. Yeah,
like you're just not. It's just not going to happen like that. Now, is poker not beatable? People, to anyone that tells me poker is not beatable nowadays, I just say you're dead fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Like I think I've never made more money in poker in my life than in recent years. So I think it is extremely beatable. But to be fair, is like you like the amount of the lack of knowledge then compared to what we knew, I guess, just like made us like we, you know, it was just we were just a little bit further ahead of what was going on at the time.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. I mean, you only have to look at commentary these days on, you know, TV shows and look at the terminology and the strategy from the commentators to understand how poker has changed. I mean, it's just incredible if you go back 10 years and compare how simple it was in terms of how they described and people playing hands. And I mean, you know, even the basic players, they know simple strategy and all the things that would have been considered, you know, highly professional moves back in the days. Right.
And things that sometimes like I back guys, and I back some talented guys, right? And they'll be like, okay, well, like I want to play like the 600 on ACR and the 1K on ACR and like the, you know, these like reg infested tournaments. And I said, look, no doubt you're better than these guys. These guys are bums. Like, you know, these guys are, you know, but they're not fish. So like you're what are you playing this tournament for, bud? Like you're playing for fucking 9 hours because it's ACR. The structure is absurd, and your ROI is fucking 12%, and it's taking up all of your time, energy, and focus. So like the reason why I bring that up is because the difference between, you know, just a straight up fish and a bad wreck it's extremely significant. And if you don't acknowledge that, then you're just caught in your own ego of being like, oh, he sucks. Like, no shit, he sucks. He does suck, but he doesn't suck as bad as fucking your dad.
Exactly. The difference is incredible. And I completely agree. I don't think people really understand that how much that kills your win rate and the money you can make in the game just by. So what would be like your top tips for game selection and how to go about an MTT schedule?
So everyone in poker has like, well, a huge percentage of people in poker have a little bit of degen in them. And I've heard guys like Doug Polk and whatever, like take shots with your bankroll. I completely fucking disagree.
Okay.
But Doug's like a super smart guy. I'm like a big Doug fan. Like I think he, like a lot of this content's hilarious and great and whatever. But he also was like playing cash games, and I think his form of shot taking was probably way more conservative than people are going to imply that. So like you simply figure. I'm very good at understanding value in tournaments. You play the tournaments that fucking people suck at. Okay. Last year, okay, this is a bit of a brag and it's just pure data too. Last year, I made about 1.8 million playing MTTs. Okay, just MTTs. Of that 1.8 million, what I made in tournaments that were ABI 250 or below was at least 2/3.
Exactly.
Okay. I had one 400K score in a 10K, which probably had me as a small winner in 10Ks through the year. Okay. All my money came from fucking pounding fucking and I'm not taking anything away from myself because I'm great at pounding fish.
Yeah.
More so than the average GTO mindset. Well, what's he thinking? Why would he do this? Why is this guy doing this? Is what I hear a lot of my even my good friends say. Why would he do this? Why would he do whatever? I'm like, because he's a fucking drunk fish on Bodog.
Yeah.
That's why. Don't fucking project your own bullshit onto other players, if that makes sense. Sorry, I went on a little tangent there, but that's
okay.
Where I feel poker is going now. Everyone is so busy in their own heads projecting their own shit onto other people, and they think the edge is in being like cute and being like tricky. It's not, man. That's not where the edge is. The edge is by fucking like certain deep psychological things that you just fucking exploit.
Exactly. I mean, we did the same thing because we staked players before as well. And when we split out the stats, you're buying plus 100 and below 100, and you saw the difference in like where all the profit came. It's like, dude, you're not playing any more buy-ins above 100. Right. You're not. That's not where your money's coming from. And like you said, I think players just there is that degen tendency. I personally don't have any degen tendency at all.
Yeah, me and you are similar like that. I could tell.
I think so. Like but I think shot taking though, I would look at it more like asymmetric risk and just like a tiny investment portion. But again, like you said, it's probably not to the level that people are taking it. So it wouldn't really be classed as like big shots or whatever.
Right. And I think there has to be a balance there too, because it's easier for me and you to be like, okay, well, we're not really degens, even though I'm turning into more of a degen the older I get, because I'm just getting less and less excitement out of like whatever, winning the fucking Bodog fucking whatever 150 or like it doesn't do as much for me. Now I'm like glory seeking or like just trying to play like the 2500s on GGs or like whatever,
just to keep it exciting.
Which is fine, which I can afford to do. And I try not to be a bad influence on my guys. And I'm just telling them like, yo, I can do this because I'm fucking rich and you guys got to fucking, you got to fucking grind. Like this is where I got to this place because of this. But I think that it's easy for me and you to say, okay, well, don't play anything above this. And I think guys need, it's like dealing with children. Like they need a little bit, like my one good friend of mine has a lot of the degen in him. And, like every now and then I'll let him be like, all right, fucking play the fucking 10K. Like, like every now and then I'll like, play whatever, just so he's not feeling completely, I don't know. I think he needs that, like, that gas sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it's okay. Like I think you just have to acknowledge that that's part of you, that's how you feel, and then almost in a calculated way take those bigger shots and realize, okay, this is the one where I am leaning into that tendency and giving myself the shot, and then like understanding right now it's time to get back to the discipline.
Right.
So tell us, like, MTTs, like what is your daily or like routine? How, because MTTs are such a slog, Mark. I mean, this is a schedule that I just don't think I could do in general. Like I like the stop start, getting my breaks, getting some food sorted. Like how do you deal with the long hours and schedules? Like what is your preparation?
I don't really, because I only just play Sundays for the most part.
Okay.
So like my Sunday, like I'm prepping all week for my Sunday. I would say the number one thing that's helped me the most, I would say, okay, this is what I would say. I would say I was probably one of the best players of 2008. I mean, I would say I was pretty, at least in terms of output, I was pretty mediocre till 2020. And a lot of those years, I just didn't play at all. Like I just didn't play for years at a time. But other than that, I was like pretty mediocre. Like I just wasn't an elite player. Mm-hmm. And then 2020, for whatever reason, I had this goal of like, you know what? I know deep down in me, I'm an elite player. Mm-hmm. And I want to prove it to myself. And I've been working with Elliott Rowe for now fucking 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, weekly for 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. And, I told Elliott, I said, all right, like, I think this is the year that I want to try to focus on poker. And we, through hypnotherapy, we did some like deep shit. And I definitely had some breakthroughs I'll give you an example. Like, mm-hmm. Let's say I was deep in a turn. I always won. Like I was always winning, like whatever, like 20K, 30K, 40K scores, like no problem. And had some bigger ones. But whenever I would get deep in something that was like, say, a minimum of like 100 or 200K up top, mm-hmm. I would notice this thing that I wouldn't feel when I would feel when I would like get deep in like something that was 30K up top. When it was 30K up top, this killer instinct came over me and I just like was all focus, all whatever. And when I'm deep in something that's deep in the party poker million and there's 200K for first, mm-hmm. there's 17 left, I'm fucking looking to register like the fucking, like any other tournament. Like I'm looking to register the fucking ACR 215, like 50K. Mm-hmm. Like why? What is the reason behind that? And we basically drew it back down to like kind of like some random event that happened to me as when I was like 8 years old.
Wow, no way.
Yeah. And the event was like, I was at a Super Bowl party. I think the Bills were playing the Cowboys one of the years that the Bills played the Cowboys. And we had a Super Bowl block pool at like this family party I was at. And I was like slated to like win $50 for quarter 3. And then with like 9 seconds left, they kicked the field goal and I didn't win. And I was fucking devastated. I was just like, everything's relative, right? Like,
yeah.
It sounds
yes,
like,
of course.
This is my rape. This is, you know what I'm saying? I'm not comparing this to rape, but I'm saying this is, it's trauma is all relative, right? So at least in the way that it may not have been affecting me in my life in a ton of other ways, but when it came down to pressure moments like that, rather than dive into that sensation, I regressed out of it, focused on other tournaments, so I wouldn't feel that disappointing feeling if I didn't give it my all. So
super interesting.
Right. So I wasn't leaning into it. So I realized that just the realization of it alone helped. Mm-hmm. And then, I started really, fucking now to the point of where like I can't handle more than one. When I'm really deep in something, the way I play poker is it's all read and feel, and whatever based. It's really like I don't play a lot of like cards. Like I just don't. Obviously in spots like shove spots and stuff like that, 100%. But like I'm really just like a mutant, and I'm out there like just going off of my reads and just doing whatever the fuck I want. And it's hard for me to play more than one at a time, which is a challenge because Sunday is FOMO day because there's a million tournaments.
Yeah.
And what happens if the one that you were doing well in, you don't do well in?
Yeah.
So that's still something that I've gotten so much better at it, but I still kind of struggle with it at times. And I just know that I really can't handle. Yeah, if it's super deep, I can handle only one. Maybe if I'm relatively deep, I could handle a couple. But this is someone from the East 20 table.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone did back in the days, right? It's hard to know like any pro that's been playing for a long time that didn't used to just bust out at least 10 tables plus, back in the days when poker was super easy, and it was similar for myself. But I think you hit on some points where, like, I think really the skill is like self-awareness, right? When you went through that with Elliot, where you were aware something was happening at the deeper buy-ins, like
I knew something was off.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is the key element. Like, as a poker player, you have to be so self-aware. And I think doing that, you obviously took the steps to see Elliot to get it fixed. Like, what steps did he take you through to fix that? Because that's like a really interesting.
Well, so that would just come up during a normal hypno session, and I would so me and Elliot, our sessions go like this: half-hour talk, half-hour hypno usually.
Okay.
And so I would just tell him, be like, "Yo, like, I'm getting deep in these tournaments, and I feel like I'm like not focusing, and I'm not feeling the same sort of energy that I would feel if I was deep in something else, and blah, blah, blah." And I'd be like, okay. And it was okay. And then we'll go into the hypno. And then like the way I'll just kind of briefly explain how the way hypno works. He'll give you like a top down, like start counting from 300 backwards in your mind. You're walking down a flight of fucking 10 steps, whatever, just to like calm yourself down. And I'm never like in like a trance or something.
Yeah.
Not or at least if I am, it's like extremely rare. Like I'm often like walking around my house when we're doing hypno. Okay. So, we'll do that. And then I'll be like, all right, well, think of the feeling that you feel when you're deep in that party poker million. Okay. So, I feel it. What does it feel like in your body? It feels like, to me, I'm a little bit like, the best way for me to describe it is I'm like withdrawn from my body. I don't feel like I have access to my power. And like, I'm just like a little, almost like I've shriveled off into like the 13-year-old me that was like very not confident and like whatever. Or in this case, it was 8-year-old me, but whatever. And then he'll say, okay, go back to another time where you felt that. And maybe there'll be something deeper that I didn't even think of, that I've never thought of ever. Because by the way, this like Super Bowl thing, I'd never ever thought about that ever again after it happened.
You locked it away. You didn't want to think about it.
Right. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, I guess. Yeah. So that came up, and then then a big part of it too is like going back and, giving your 8-year-old self a hug, telling him it's going to be okay, telling him that like, look, your life turns out well. It doesn't matter that you didn't win the $50. And that's like, it sounds kind of cheesy or whatever, but it's like really like cathartic. I think. And so like I've had that experience with like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 different things.
Wow.
Where and like I've just, sometimes quickly like noticed the change.
Yeah.
And it's still every week with Elliot, like now it feels like with Elliot, like I'm picking up pieces of things that I'm noticing off of other players, or I'm picking up bits and pieces. I'll be like, this week, like, dude, I'm 4-betting too much, man. Like the more and more I see, like, these guys are just such pussies. They're just incapable of 3-betting light quickly. Like they just don't have it in their brain. Whereas like to me, it's like, that's the thing. It's like no, like fucking 3-bet, like 3-bet. Like, and I'm doing a little bit with the thing I preach against my horses. Don't project. They're not you. You can't infer what they're doing is what you're doing.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just like bits and pieces, and then I'll do like a 15-minute session with him before every Sunday to focus on things. And let's say I'm envisioning winning another bracelet or something like that. We'll do a little bit of envisioning shit too. And it's like, all right, what do you need to make this happen? And recently for me, it's just been like, I watched the fucking the Jordan documentary. Have you seen that?
Yes, The Last Dance.
Yeah, and it's like I didn't really know that much about MJ, to be honest. Like
me neither. I didn't know much either.
Yeah, and like I don't know exactly what the quote was or whatever, but it was just like something about him. something about him. People asking him if he ever like thought of like missing a shot, and he just like looked at them and he was like, "What?"
Couldn't
like,
understand.
why the fuck would I think about that? And like that, and I was like, that's what I want. I said, I want that mentality. I said, when I get nervous and I'm three-handed in a World Series event and I'm thinking about not winning the bracelet and the fucking FUD that will accompany that, fuck that. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about only winning. And ever since I did that, I've only won. So
I heard that in basketball as well. It was a similar one. It was like, there's the seconds left on the clock. Do you want the ball? Like that's the question to ask.
And I never did.
Yeah.
My whole life, I never wanted the ball. I never wanted the ball until last year.
Wow, that's such a huge power shift. I mean, that's just going to make such a huge difference.
Yeah, I never wanted the ball, and all my friends did. Like I'm great friends with Paul G's, who's I think top 10 poker player of all time without a doubt. Taylor Parr, everyone. I'm friends with all a ton of the top guys. And like I always kind of felt like they had this like winning mindset that I didn't have, and I just didn't have it because whatever growing up, I'm not sure why I didn't have it, but I didn't. But I got it, I feel like now, and it feels good.
But that's the thing, like you took the steps, and this is what I think people don't really understand is like having the self-awareness to realize where things are going wrong and just not ignoring it, diving into it and taking the steps to correct these things. It's not easy to do, but it's just you have to do the work in those areas because that's what's going to give you the biggest difference.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, right? Because I feel like on one hand, like sure, it's great to be a hard worker and it's great to like have self-awareness, but like what's given me that self-awareness? Like I just feel like a lot of it's like luck. Like a lot of it's like okay, I was lucky to have this self-awareness to I used to be a big boozer to one day wake up and realize like this is not good for me anymore. I can't do this. And so like I don't look down on people that are like still alcoholics. Like I just felt lucky that I was given that grace of whatever. So it's tough to say, but I would definitely say that it's impossible to be an elite poker player if you're not working on some in deeply intuitive level. It's impossible. Absolutely. You can't fucking mimic someone else and be a great poker player. And I don't think we're in the days where you can be a purely math-based MTT player, or even like a mostly math-based MTT player and be elite. I do not believe that. I do not believe that. There's guys that are getting close. I believe. I think they're getting close, but I don't believe that.
It's not overall necessary. I mean, I think of all the games, right, in poker, MTT is one of the ones that's probably least near GTO play, right? There's just so many players, so many bad players, and it's probably the least because there's just so many other elements involved 100%. As well. So,
without a doubt.
So it just doesn't make sense to just focus on purely maths in that game. Like I would say exploitative play is probably the highest value in that.
I 100% agree. And I actually think people will be like, well, you can't play an exploit in a GG 10K. Really? Pretty sure you can. I'm pretty
for sure. I was having this discussion, like we were covering the 5K, I think WCOOP main event, and there was just some lines where I'm like, guys, you don't like. I just don't see why you need to do that. That is a lower EV line. You're just not making the chips you need to make. Like you don't have to think about your range and a total. I'm gonna do that. Like it's
too like self-involved.
Yeah,
it's like it's too self-involved. I think is what it is. Like people are really like they think that like people are hyper aware of what they're doing at all times, when sometimes you aren't even paying attention. And yeah, it's not. It's just simply not. And it's like I think that GTO, the reason why the popularity of GTO has risen is because it's given people a system to not go into, like, it's a system. So they can play this system whether it's right, it's all their inputs suck dick. Like their inputs are awful for sure. I'm pro GTO, by the way. Like if GTO was really GTO is the best poker player in the world, without a doubt. I understand GTO at that level. I get it, but all the inputs suck. All the fucking data sucks. But I think the reason why it's getting so much popularity is because it gives people an excuse not to use their intuitive or emotional side, which sometimes may be very uncomfortable to do.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, I think there's different players, intuitive and then the analytical side. And it's always funny. Like, I always find the decisions that I'm always umming and ahhing are always the edge decisions. You've just played poker so long that it's always those ones, and you're like intuitively don't know what to do because it's on the edge. I mean,
what do you mean exactly?
Like, I find when I play myself, you have those intuitions, right? You just from all the experience. That's where intuition comes from mainly. Is
from experience, 100%.
Experience, right? So you don't know why you know. You just don't know why you know, but you know.
The subconscious database in your mind has figured it out.
Yeah, it's too quick for you to understand why.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be reactive. That's how we survive as humans. So it comes out in poker after so long. You've done it 16 years. You're going to have some pretty good instinctive reactions in the game.
Right, but it's crazy because a lot of guys that I know that were former number one players and stuff like that they've, I don't know why exactly, lack of confidence, lack of worthiness, lack of whatever, have drained those intuitions out. They've drained them out, and they're now focusing on the card so much more. And like everyone, like just I've seen it, dude. Like there are very few like high stakes MTT players that are really fucking putting you in tough spots. Very less than 10, I think, from at least from that what I'm consistently playing with. There's a lot that have like gone on to other things, like the fadors that aren't around all so much that are beasts, whatever. But like just on the reg, like guys that are really fucking putting you in fucking in the vice.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. So how have you dealt with tilt over the years? I mean, 16 years, you've obviously gone through some bad runs. You've obviously had to deal with that side of poker. I mean, you will have seen it. How have you coped with that in general? It was just never a thing for you.
Tilt. The most relevant thing I could say to that is that before I gained, and I think I did this during a period of time where I wasn't playing poker for several years, before I gained an inner self-acceptance on some deeper level of myself as a whole. I'm not saying I totally have it. Like I don't have total self-acceptance, but I think I really gained a huge chunk of it at some point is when a big shift happened for me. Because before it used to be, I'm deep in whatever tournament, and I fuck up, I spew, which happens every fucking day. It happens every fucking day. It's going to happen every day moving forward because you just simply, I'm fucking testing the line every day, and you're just going to fucking spew. Like it's just going to happen. I'm seeing how much I can get away with. Right. And before I would spew, and then I would go into like a sort of a mini depression for like 3 days, and it would start this whole like negative momentum downtrend, which I see in one particular guy that I back now. And there's no room for, there never becomes room for growth because you're not in a state of constant confidence where you can continue to look at things rationally. And, confidence is just fucking the elixir. Confidence it is the elixir. So now I'll probably make fucking 13 of those plays in a day, and they don't even like hit me. Like it doesn't even like register in my brain that I've done them because I'm so in acceptance of who I am as a poker player that, like, a good example is I was at the final table of the GG 10K about a month ago or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I 4-bet folded half of my stack off with queen 5 off, right? And like I was like laughing, like I was like literally laughing, and like, you know, the announcer's like, "Oh my God, is he drunk? Like, what is he doing?" Like, and like I was just like in full acceptance of myself that I was just like that, like okay, I may go back and remap and see if like and like reanalyze the situation and be like, well, maybe these guys aren't like 4-betting at a frequency here against particularly me in this spot that was good. And I'm just still data scraping, you know.
Exactly.
I'm constantly data scraping it, you know. Every week I'm finding out something new that I'm tweaking to my game. This is after fucking playing for fucking 15 fucking years, man.
Never stops, right?
Yeah. So I would say, I didn't answer your question at all, but gaining the inner acceptance, because I never really had a tilt issue.
You're one of the lucky ones there. I mean, I consider myself quite self-controlled, but to not have a tilt, well, at least something that I think you get desensitized.
I mean, the thing that would tilt me, I don't know if it would affect my play because I would probably be out by then, but if I make a mistake, if I make the mistakes, you know. So, but like I said, I'm way less kind to myself. But if I like bust a tournament in like I just recently bubbled one of the biggest the tournaments on the internet in an outrageous way, it was like one of like the most absurd beats of my career, whatever. Who cares? I've also won a ton recently too, so it's probably all evening out, whatever. But like, I wasn't tilted at all because it wasn't. Was I disappointed? Yes, but I wasn't tilted because I felt like I did what I could do. I only get tilted if I think that I could have like controlled the situation. I could have played better.
Yeah, exactly. I always say that as well. Like you have to focus on what you can control. Like it's much easier said than done. I think some people do have to go through, just have to go through feeling all these emotions just to start desensitizing and understand. And
absolutely,
you just have to go through it. I mean, we're human beings at the end of the day. We have, emotional attachment to money, to winning, to losing. Yep. It's just how we're wired.
Yeah, and I was to be fair, I was like, I remember back when I first started playing in like 2006, 7, 8, probably. I was probably a massive like tilt monkey. Like, I still don't know that it affected my play a whole ton, but I was definitely like a fucking like chat box rager, like fucking like just like I was definitely, it definitely affected me. And I think that's just your progression as a poker player. And I think us as older, more experienced guys got to have a little compassion to the guys that are newer to the game and going through that, because, we're just all, we're all where we're at this particular moment,
So, I mean, 16 years obviously is I mean, in poker, that's an absolute lifetime. That would definitely be considered a lifetime. What would be like your top 3 tips for players, like, for longevity?
For longevity. Okay, you're never going to. You have to be your own player. You can't. There's this thing that happens in the development of a poker player that is extremely obvious to me. It happened to me too.
Okay.
You start playing, and you play generally from intuition. Okay, and you probably do pretty good. And then you start talking to some more people in poker, and you hear some things from some fudsters, usually losing players, or maybe just watching internet videos, or maybe something didn't work out for you and you turn to some book or something, whatever, to help you learn. And then all of a sudden you've turned into a religious person. And there's certain things that you can and cannot do. And you've gained this big ego. You've gained this big ego despite not having any success. Like, despite or maybe you had success when you weren't going off of these rules and these systems and these whatever. And I see that it's a ton. It's crazy. Like there's a lot of guys that probably just think that they're so delusional because of all of this brainwashed nonsense that got into their heads. It could also have been from a backer. It could have been from whatever, that like, this is what I have to do. And it's just like anything else. We're all closed-minded in ways. It's just any sort of closed-mindedness is just going to eat your ROI, a lot.
I completely agree. Like, I think it's a trap. Like, I think all of these things are good, loose basics and places to start. I mean, there was someone on Reddit the other day who was talking about, it's such a simple, basic thing. He was saying that he wanted to raise the limpers and raise 5 and everybody calls. And like, why raise 5? Like, you can raise 10, you can raise 15. It just wasn't in his head that he could do something different. Because I've been taught that's what I should do, always raise 5 BB. I mean, that's
right, it's the rules. Exactly. It's a great example. It's a great example. Whereas there is just no rules.
There are no rules.
No fucking rules. Right. And so people will say like, okay, well, I'm just looking at everything like, okay, like I don't care if I have to put in half my chips and fold, but like, do I think in the long run that that's going to yield a profit? If I I just really don't think this guy is anything. I'm clicking again. I'm gonna put another click in. I just don't think he has anything. I'm going off of that, and then I'll let the dust settle when the dust settles. If I'm left with fucking 60% of my chips in the pot, and then I'm like, wow, wait, like hold on a second, like I actually think that I may have to just like call now with like my horrendous hand, which almost never is the case because you're almost always up against a completely nutted range. Then I'll do it. But it's like one step at a time, whatever. Let's not worry about all the stacks behind us. Let's not worry about if this person does this. Let's not worry about what's going to happen on the fucking turn. Let's play one street at a fucking time, which is easier to say than do. And it just happened to me just through experience and I guess confidence. But that is falling into that pit of whatever. Be careful who you take advice from. A lot of guys, we have our egos so wrapped up in this thing that we could be closed-minded. And I actually pat myself on the back because I back guys that play completely differently than me. And I do feel as though I'm open to it. Like I know there's a lot of killers that play totally different than me. A lot of like they flat a lot, they fucking float a lot, they do this and that and whatever. And generally speaking, I haven't come across, this is going to sound douchey and like whatever, I haven't come across at least many other backers that aren't like, they're like, this is the fucking system to play.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And I will do that. If it's a complete noob, I will tell them. I will be like, this is the system that you're going to play. Because they need that. But if it's someone that's more advanced and I can tell they have talent and stuff like that, like I'll push them on some things that I would suggest. But other than that, you got to let them roam free if you want them to really succeed.
Yeah, exactly. And no one wants to be, micromanaged. I mean, it's not why people get into poker, right? It's for the freedom.
No, for sure. And I just believe it's like the best analogy I could have is like snowflakes. Like every snowflake is different. Like there's no snowflake that is exactly the same. So if you try to like mold yourself into something that isn't your innate poker beast, it's never going to be the number one. Like it's never going to be the number one thing. Like someone's absolute, best game is going to look way different than my best game.
Yeah, that's for sure. So how would you say, how big are live reads these days?
Live reads?
Yeah.
I don't ever really play live.
It's just purely online.
I think online reads are.
There are online reads for sure, right?
It's a combination of just what I watch if I'm deep in the tournament, I watch every hand. I watch every bet sizing, and I make notes as to timing for those bet sizings. Yeah. And then there's also a thing that I think is a subconscious tell. Like I feel like, I'm always questioning, things if I'm crazy or not. But I feel like sometimes when I'm really tapped in, I can just like feel fear. Like I can just feel fucking fear. And I'm like totally open-minded to being wrong about that. But there's times where I feel like when I'm really zoned in that I can feel everything that's going on around me. If that makes sense. And I don't know if you would call that reads or just being present or what. Live reads never really been my thing. It's always been kind of, I've used my own table talk to achieve what I wanted rather than trying to like really get reads on people, unless it's like a total wreck.
It is kind of getting reads though. I mean, you're instigating the read so you can see what you want to do. Cool. Tell us what's next for you in poker, Mark. Like, what you got coming up?
Well, I won 2 Dusty online bracelets this year.
Congratulations.
And I think 3 is the most anyone's ever won. So until proven otherwise, I will try to win at least 4. And I think I have a reasonable shot at doing so, considering some of the tournaments that are coming up. Even though I haven't played any live events, with some of the online ones are like one's like a 7K with like 3 rebuys. I'll be gambling. I'll be trying to buy a bracelet. Like to be totally fair. And I don't know. I kind of feel as though like and it's probably like an insecurity thing. Like I don't think that a ton of people like really know about me. And I honestly think about it. This is like an uncomfortable thing to say. I think I'm playing the best at least at the games that I'm playing in MTTs by far right now. Like I'm the best at what I'm doing right now by far. Yeah. So like, I think it would be good to get recognition, and then also just to prove to myself that I can go out there. Maybe the last event I need to win is the 250K. And that would be a good like challenge for me to like go and play live and fucking see these motherfuckers and whatever, and throw down.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one for sure. We'll definitely have to rail this event. It's going to be good. All right. So, Mark, what we can do now is we can have a bit of fun, a little bit of a rapid fire questions. We'll just fire some off to you and just tell us what pops in your head.
Cool.
Awesome. All right, let's do it. So, favorite poker player?
Fucking obviously, Tony Goiga.
Oh, okay.
His shit talk. I wish I had that in me, man. Like, I do have it in me a little bit, but the way he would talk to people, just like, I loved it. People probably thought he was the biggest dick of all time. He's playing a fucking game, man. I will fucking eat you. I don't know the shit that he would say, but it was just epic. And it fucked with people.
The best was the Phil Hellmuth one, obviously, where he lied about his hand, and obviously Phil trying to take advantage gets him to call. He's like, "What? So you can call and take advantage, but I can't lie, basically."
Yeah,
super good.
He's an animal.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, what do you love the most about poker?
The feeling of feeling in the zone.
What are you best at in poker?
Understanding this, just like psychologically understanding other players and not projecting.
What are you worst at in poker?
What am I worst at poker? I still think it's sometimes letting my ego get in the way.
Okay.
And like I guess the fear of being outplayed in certain spots, as opposed to seeing the whole tournament dynamic here, where I could just fold.
Yeah,
I could just fold here, even though I think this guy's full of shit and fuck this guy.
Yeah, exactly. I think you have to do that a lot in poker, right? Come outside, go back inside, come out. So there's so many views you have to take. All right, awesome. What's the best thing about being a poker pro?
The best thing for me is the confidence that I think that I derive from it, because I think that I've done what it takes to become elite, and that it gives me confidence in every other aspect of my life.
Amen. What's the worst thing about being a poker pro?
That it can trigger the fucking the drug addict in me. It can trigger the this is something I'm working on extensively recently. It can trigger the noise center, and then it's all about noise. You got to win this ego, this action, fucking like that, rather than like coming down. I have a 7-year-old. I have a fiance. My relationships with them suffering as a result of being in the noise. Right. So that's like one of my main focuses actually is that.
Nice. Okay. Well, you have good reasons. Best book you've read?
Best book I read. I don't know that I fully the fucking entertainment wise, the Madisau one was fucking epic. It's like so underrated. Madisau like talked about like doing crystal meth for like 6 months and playing poker. And like it was just like epically entertaining.
I have to read this one now. And
then in terms of what like I guess helped me as a player, I don't know that it did. Is well, God, no, I'm not even gonna say because it doesn't apply to anyone here. I was gonna say Ed Miller's Low Stakes Hold'em. I think he was a prodigy. He had figured that game out, and no one else did. And then the Harrington books on like tournament poker.
Yeah, I read all those.
If you have any sort of like any capacity to like focus on something, then he just gives out good information, man.
Yeah.
I don't think I used it because I was like at that point I was like kind of on my own and too like fucking fuck this.
Yeah, it was pretty disciplined. I read all those books before playing. Favorite movie?
Favorite poker movie?
Any movie.
Well, favorite poker movie is obviously Rounders. But favorite movie of all time, I'm gonna go with Shawshank Redemption, even though it's probably not still, but it's a classic. It's a good.
Yeah, it's a good one for sure. Favorite place in the world?
Favorite place in the world? Let's try to think where I had the most fun. In the past couple of years, I've traveled quite a bit because my fiance has opened me up to like, going places,
getting out the house.
yeah, exactly. Let's see. I went to Nantucket, which was cool, but it wasn't my favorite. I mean, I stayed in Costa Rica for a month in Jaco, where we played Scoop, and it was a beautiful place. It was an absolutely beautiful place for sure. That was like, but it wasn't like it was like more like Zen chill, and I needed a little bit more like
get more on it.
Yeah,
I understand how that could be. Okay, craziest thing you've seen in poker?
Craziest thing I've seen in poker. I feel like it would be a hand. I feel like every Sunday I see a hand, then I'm like, what
just happened?
What in the fuck just happened?
Isn't that like every game?
Okay, a craziest hand I played. I'm not gonna remember the exact board, but I had the most absurd dynamic with this guy in some like smaller scoop. Okay, this is years and years ago.
Wow, must have been bad.
And it was just a weird beat. It wasn't. It's not. It wasn't. It was okay. So anyway, it was like I 3-bet pre, and I 3-bet pre. He 4-bet. I 5-bet. He called. I'm like big blind or small blind. Okay. The board comes like ace, 3, 5. Okay, and it runs out deuce 4. Okay, and I somehow have a 6 in my fucking hand. I had like jack 6.
It's got 6, 7.
So I'm like, This pillages. Yeah, and he had 6-7. And I was just like, how
is this possible?
I'm like, what just happened here? No fault to him. No complaining. No nothing. I was just like I just stared at the screen.
That is a weird one.
Also, in a PLO hand, I don't know how rare this is, but I had a royal and quads in the same hand. I feel like that's got to be pretty fucking rare. I had a royal and quad tens in like the same hand, like ace, king, queen, jack, 10 of spades, and quad tens.
Wow. I mean, I don't play enough PLO to know how crazy it is, but I'm
I think it's pretty crazy.
Okay. Tell us something people don't know about you.
Something most people don't know about me. I was scared. I'm still probably scared of the dark.
Yeah.
But I was definitely scared of the dark as of a year ago or something like that. But I probably just doesn't show because I sleep with my fiance.
Yeah. And everyone sees you in light anyway.
Every or most nights. Yeah. Fear of the dark.
Wow. Okay, cool. Proudest life moment.
See, I feel like it should be something with my kid, but I don't know that that's something that I would naturally say. Well, I'll tell you one very cute thing that happened recently. I had my son gave me a rock, a special some fucking stone that he got for his birthday. He just turned 7, and he gave it and I said, "Give me a lucky one." He said he gave me this one, and I had like an epic weekend. He gives me this rock, and I lost the rock. And I said, "Luke, you gotta help me find this rock." And he said, "Dad," he said, "it doesn't matter. You're so good. You don't need the rock." And I was just like,
wow. He's a beast already. He's way ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and I actually have one more, and whatever. I'm just gonna tell the story. I recently had some large windfall of money from something unexpected. I get in an Uber. The Uber driver says when I get in the Uber that the Uber driver is deaf. I get in the car and it says, "Hey, Mark, are you Mark?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Are you deaf?" Like, because he didn't, deaf people usually can't speak 100%.
Okay.
Right? Like I said, "Are you deaf or what? Like, what's the deal?" He said, "Yeah, I am. I'm 80% deaf, but I have hearing aids that help me a bit."
Okay.
And I said, "Oh, all right, cool." I said, "How's that work? Like, do you have a really good hearing aid? Like, is it possible to get like a better hearing aid? Like what's the deal there? Like, how much does it help you as opposed to whatever?" He said, "No, there are hearing aids that help you like pretty much 100%, but very few people over the age of 60 qualify for them for whatever reason."
Okay.
And I said, "Yo, look, I don't want to sound weird, or I don't want to offend you, but I said, I just fucking had this random windfall of money. Can I buy you this hearing aid? Like, it wouldn't mean much to me, and hopefully it would help you. And I would just genuinely like to do it." And at first he was like, "I couldn't take that, whatever." And then he did, and then he like sent me this message afterwards, and it was just like such like a feel good story. I don't know. It was just like an epic thing. He said, send me a message. He said, "Mark, like, you don't realize like how much you changed the quality of my life. Like, blah, blah, blah." And like, so to be honest with you, I'm like self-conscious about sharing that to people because I think I'm afraid to be judged of like being like a braggart or something like that, which is like total bullshit. I think that if stories like that happen to people, that they should share them because maybe they're in a situation where they feel like they should give something to someone, but they feel like awkward about it and like not to, if that makes sense.
I completely agree. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure that moment made you feel better than many of the other moments that you've had. And it's crazy how something like that, giving and helping another human being is something that actually, inherently makes us feel so good.
Yeah, for sure. And it like kind of goes along with all of my like spiritual beliefs, I guess, or whatever, that are always changing. But yeah, that was a good one.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, I think on that note, we shall call it. It's been absolutely fantastic to have you, Mark. Thank you so much for your time and your candid responses. It was a real pleasure to go through this with you and hear your insights and your story, and lots of similarities I can see from my own journey as well. So it's been really fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. And we wish you the best of luck in the games coming up.
I appreciate it. I think of all the podcasts that I've done, that you've been the easiest and the best past host that I've come across.
Thank you so much.
I'm being dead serious. So yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Really appreciate those kind words.
No doubt.
Thank you. Have an awesome day. Absolute pleasure. Take care.
You too, buddy. Bye-bye.
Thank you.